Welcome back to Invictus Forum. I started off in the first presentation by giving a difference between stylistic devices, figures of speech, and I also spoke about dramatic, narrative, poetic, comparative, and sound devices. Now, figures of speech are rhetorical devices used to add color, bring out clarity, and emphasis on language usage in literature. I want to begin by making this clarification that all literary devices are stylistic devices, but not all stylistic devices are figurative devices. Listen again. All literary devices are stylistic devices, but not all stylistic devices are figurative devices. In the same manner, I also want to make this clarification that imagery is an aspect of style, but there are other aspects of style which are elements of imagery such as metaphor, simile, personification, etc. Let me start with the basic figurative devices before taking those which are a bit complicated. Let's begin with metaphor. Metaphor is a comparison between two unlike things without the use of as or like to imply that they are the same. So the emphasis here is on the sameness, similarity. For example, Peter was a lion in the fight. The comparison here is at the level of bravery that Peter had exhibited during the fight compared to the bravery that lions exhibit when they take on large prey in the forest or in the savannah. Now let's look at simile. This is a comparison between two unlike things with the use of as unlike. Take note that the following will not be a simile, even though they use as or like. For example, Douala is as big as Yaoundé. My head is like my mother's head. Although the two sentences I have just read have as or like, they are ordinary comparisons because the things that are compared in both sentences belong to the same class. I am comparing two towns. I am comparing two human heads. But the sentence below contains a simile, which is, she ran down the stairs with her breast hanging like watermelon. Here the comparison is a human part which is compared to a fruit, and the focus here and the similarity here is to bring out the size, how big her breasts are. Take note that the similarity between metaphor and simile is that both compare unlike things and deal with similarity. But the difference between the two is that metaphor is a direct comparison, while simile is indirect to get meaning by inference. That is to say, metaphor will clearly say he is as brave as a lion. Tells you what exactly they are talking about. But in the metaphor, it is not directly stated. Therefore, while metaphor is sometimes subjected to a single meaning, simile can be subjected to multiple meanings depending on the context of the usage. Therefore, both comparisons can only be deduced by the context in which they have been used. Let's take personification. It deals with the giving of human attributes or traits to non-human elements or things, often to put across a salient message. For example, the wind whispered through the trees. 2. The lazy ship crawled across the Atlantic Ocean. In the first, the wind is said to be whispering to indicate the gentleness with which the wind blows. Because whispers are gentle ways by which we speak to people we love. It has a caressing effect. In the second, the ship is described as lazy, crawling to indicate its slowness. And this could be maybe because of the ship's age or something else. Permit me to make the clarification between personification and apostrophe. Apostrophe is a rhetorical device where the speaker addresses directly a non-human thing, someone who is absent or dead, as if they were present or they will respond. It is an address. It is often used to express deep emotions, reflect on abstract concepts, or highlight personal feelings. It helps the reader and the audience to connect deeply with the speaker's thoughts and feelings. For example, "Oh moon, I am a lonely creature abandoned by loved ones." Here is a speaker expressing his feeling of sadness, maybe sitting outside the house and the moon is shining. And then he speaks to the moon as if it were a human being and could respond to him, expressing his frustration that he has been abandoned by loved ones. The difference is that in personification, non-human things or elements are given human attributes or qualities. But in the apostrophe, the non-human elements are simply addressed as if they were human beings. Therefore, if the MCQ question carries the situation in which non-human elements are given human attributes, the answer will be personification. But if the question states the situation in which non-human elements are addressed as if they were human beings, or in their absence, as if they would respond, the answer will be apostrophe. Irony is a contrast between what is expected and the reality. It could be what the speaker says, but means the opposite, usually with the use of sarcasm, known as verbal irony. For example, there is a great storm and the person sitting by you says or exclaims, "Great weather we have here, don't we?" There is a storm. A storm cannot make great weather, but he refers to the weather as being great. Of course, he means the opposite. It can also be used when there is a contrast between what is expected to happen from the previous action and what actually occurs or the actual outcome. For example, the fire station burning down completely. The fire station burning down completely. The fire station is meant to put out fires. But if the fire station itself burns down completely, this is a situational irony, because we would not expect that the institution which takes care of putting out fires should be burnt by fire completely without being put out. Now you see, for example, you fail an exam and you expect your father to beat you mercilessly because he is a very strict father. But when you explain to him trembling, he simply smiles and tells you, try again. This is situational irony. Lastly, irony can be generated when the audience or the reader knows something characters or other characters do not know. This situation often creates humor and conflict, and this is known as dramatic irony. For example, Virgilia is afraid that her husband might get hurt in the battle in Coriolanus, whereas the battle is already ended and Coriolanus is victorious and he is on his homeward journey. He's on his way back home. Now let's take paradox, because I want to show the difference between the two. A paradox is a self-contradictory statement. Listen, self-contradictory. Irony, what is expected. Defeating. A self-contradictory statement that may make no sense, but may or have a deeper truth or meaning when you examine it closely. It often challenges conventional wisdom and highlights an underlying reality. They are mostly used to provoke thought, illustrate complicated ideas, and emphasize on the complexities of human experience. For example, less is more. To be less is more. How can you be less and then you are more? It doesn't make sense. But what does this sentence suggest? It simply suggests that the more you are humble, the more humility you exhibit, the higher you will be lifted. The higher you achieve greatness, the higher you will become successful. And number two, the only thing constant is change. Doesn't make any sense. How can something be constant and then you are talking about change? Change already means something not being stable. But when you look at it, it doesn't make sense for something to be constant and then change. But after giving a second thought, the statement simply suggests that change is the only thing that is constant, because there is constant, nothing stands at the same point. It tells you that change is an inevitable and unchanging aspect or part of existence or life. Note, therefore, that the difference between irony and paradox lies in what is expected and the reality in irony, and self-contradiction in meaning in paradox. Hyperbole is the use of exaggeration to emphasize or to create effect. For example, I am so hungry that I can eat a horse. My father's room is an airfield, to signify that it is large and it has comfort. It is comfortable. 3, Betty's buttocks is a heel, to show that the buttocks are very large. There are other figurative elements like euphemism, metonymy, pun, understatement, chiasmus, anaphora, antithesis, zogma. But I wanted to focus on these ones because these are the figurative devices that create some ambiguity, and sometimes people have difficulty in differentiating one from the other. I think that you can continue to send us, a message, leave us a comment. If there's anything that has not been understood, let us know. Thank you for watching.